Alright, this is your creation. My name is Starseed Bey. How's everyone doing today? This should be another interesting video that will definitely tie in with my last video. Um, Definitely has the Halloween vibe to things. But as a whole, the reason why I make videos like this is that we really need to look at things from a different perception. We need to discern, what kind of information that we're listening to with people. I was watching quite a few different perceptions on different matters, including what we're going to talk about today. And we really have to use that power of discernment, not only with the spirits, but with people as well. We have to uh, see the viewpoint from that person, see the intent from that person. That's one of the most important things is intent. Um, and just question and see the information. What is it? How is it presenting itself in your life? How is it presenting itself? What is the end result of the information that we're learning about? So basically, that's what we're going to talk about today. Is learning about, learning more in depth on what magic is, learning more in depth that familiar spirits can be a lot more than just what we're taught. Familiar spirits could be ETs, familiar spirits could be angels, could be demons. You know, um, Familiar spirits themselves, we're going to learn more about them. Are in essence a helper, for some way, shape, or form, uh, in the experience of life. So it's definitely quite fascinating, at least for me, anyways. So we're going to be talking about this stuff, and we'll see where else this goes. So if this is your first time watching me, I am on YouTube and Facebook. So if you're on YouTube, definitely like, subscribe, share out. I have a lot of different content on here, from spirituality to things that are going on in the world, and many other subjects, just like the ones that we're talking about today. I'm also on Facebook. I got a public site, facebook.com/Real Talk Starseed Bey. Hey, how's it going, Rain? So definitely share the page out, like it. If you got questions, concerns, definitely let me know. I'm also on patreon.com/Adam Starseed Bey, so you can definitely check me out there as well. So yeah, this should be rather interesting. And it's quite fascinating in how I've been really researching more and more about familiar spirits, magic itself. Just like I talked about before, is that we use magic in our lives daily. We use witchcraft in our lives daily, aware or unaware. And we really have to be aware of this and not be so judgmental. That's the word that's being used, is not being so judgmental, but getting to the bottom of things. Digging deep into the foundation of each person that presents content out there, and not take it so literally, because a lot of these experiences that we experience, including myself, we share out our testimonies, we share out our experiences, and like myself, I question everything, and I bring that to the table all the time. Is that when we question things, we have to have some kind of realization on what's taking place. There's a lot of hearsay, there's a lot of what ifs, and just including what we're going to talk about today. There's a lot of what ifs, and it goes into a lot of territories of fantasy, of the mind, tricks of the mind, and it even ties in with religion as well. Religion, talking with angels, and if you look up the real definition of angels, that word is not in there. It's just messengers. There's many, many messengers that are sent from the perceived Most High. They can also be guides, spirit guides, whatever it may be. There's always something that is guiding you to somewhere, or is leading you somewhere, whether it's leading you astray, or leading you on the path you're supposed to be on. It's quite fascinating, and it always has to do with spirits of some kind, and man, it's just it's very fascinating. So we're gonna go ahead and we'll kind of get like a history detail of familiar spirits, and we'll just kind of go from there. So familiar spirits in European folklore and folk belief of the medieval and early modern periods, familiar spirits, sometimes referred to simply as familiars or animal guides or spirit guides, were believed to be supernatural entities that would assist witches and cunning folk in their practice of magic. According to the records of the time, they would appear in numerous disguises, often as an animal, but also at times as a human or humanoid figure, and were described as clearly defined three-dimensional forms, vivid with color and animated with movement and sound. By those alleging, I don't know what that word is, to have come into contact with them, unlike later descriptions of ghosts with their smoky, undefined forms. When they served witches, they were often thought to be malevolent, while when working for cunning folk, they were often thought of as benevolent. Although there were some cases of both, right? Hey, how's it going? Holy cow, I don't know how to pronounce your name, buddy. But how's it going, man? And that's where, you really don't know what kind of spirit is presenting itself to you. It could be a nice spirit, it can be a bad spirit. It's hard to say. But it's a form of exchange. Let's see, the former was often categorized as demons, while the later were more commonly thought of and described as fairies, which is quite interesting. The main purpose of familiars is to serve the witch or young witch, providing protection for them as they came into their new powers. Since the 20th century, a number of magical practitioners, including adherents of the neo-pagan religion of Wicca, have began to use the concept of familiars due to their association with older forms of magic. These contemporary practitioners utilize pets, wildlife, or believe that invisible spirit versions of familiars act as magical aids. A definition: a familiar spirit can be an alter ego, a doppelganger, a personal demon, personal totem, a spirit companion. Is the alter ego of an individual. It does not look like the individual concerned, even though it may have an independent life of its own. It remains closely linked to the individual. The familiar spirit can be an animal or an animal companion. And this is a good point. So many people get confused thinking that they're being visited by shadow beings or by spirits, but at the end of the day, a lot of us, we can have personal scars in our lives and traumas, and we'll try to suppress those emotions, and because you're not dealing with those kind of emotions, it creates a spirit or an alternate ego of the self. So it creates a face or a persona. And a lot of times, because you're not dealing with those kind of emotions, it creates its own spirit within you. So therefore, you think you have demons attached to you and that you're possessed. But that's not really the case. A lot of cases, with people who hear spirits and voices and things of that nature are really themselves not learning on how to handle or deal with um, traumas within their life. That's one scenario, right? But the other scenario is that you can also be empathic, and you can hear other people's thoughts and viewpoints and things of that nature. So you think that there's spirits uh, following you in that manner, but it's really that you're empathic and you're hearing other people's thoughts and views and emotions. Like that's what I've talked about is you feel that sense of anxiety. You're like, okay, man, I'm having an anxiety attack. What's going on here? But it's really not the case. Is that somebody else is having an anxiety attack, and you're feeling that empathic um, essence, and you really have to be mindful in that manner as well. So it gets really deep, and that's what I'm saying is that we get confused because we're not used to these concepts. We're not used to someone studying or researching these kind of matters because we're not taught this in school, right? Unless if you are one that practices witchcraft or who practices magic, then this stuff makes sense to you. Um, but you can get lost and you can get twisted because when you deal with witchcraft and magic, you don't have a steady foundation or a go home to place. Like I said, myself, Christ is my foundation. So if ever I feel like I am being led astray or I'm falling off um, the path that I'm trying to be on, I have a go home to place. Be like, all right, I just need to drop everything. I need to sit in meditation and pray and be guided by the Spirit, be guided by the one Spirit to see where I need to go or what the next step is in my life. And that's where we have to present that mature aspect within our lives. Deep stuff. Let's see here. What else we got here? Um, let's see. This French poet said, "It is the familiar spirit of the place. It judges, persuades, inspires everything in its empire. It is perhaps a fairy or a god. When my eyes drawn like a magnet to this cat that I love." And that's basically a poem. Let's see. A.P. Elkine, study the beliefs in familiar spirits. Excuse me. A useful method or explanation is that the medicine man sends his familiar spirits, his assistant totem, spirit dog, spirit child, or whatever the form may be, to gather the information. While this is occurring, the man himself is in a state of receptivity, in sleep or trance. In modern phraseology, spiritism, his familiar spirit would be the control spirit. Let's see here. The gold eye clearly distinguishes between the tutelary spirit, the ayami, which chooses the shaman, and the helping spirit, savin, which are subordinate to it and are granted to the shaman by the ayami itself. According to Sternberg, the gold eye explained the relations between the shaman and his ayami by complex sexual emotion. Here is the report of the gold eye shaman. Once I was asleep on my sick bed when a spirit approached me, which is quite interesting. We're always approached by some kind of spirit. When a spirit approached me, it was a very beautiful woman. Her figure was very slight. She was more than half 71 centimeters tall. Her face and attire were quite as those of one of our gold women. She said, "I am the ayami of your ancestors, the shamans. I taught them shamaning. Now I am going to teach you. I love you, and I have no husband now. You will be my husband, and I shall be a wife unto you. I shall give you assistance spirits. You are to heal with their aid, and I shall teach and help you myself. Sometimes she comes under the aspect of an old woman, and sometimes under that of a wolf. So she is terrible to look at. Sometimes she comes as a winged tiger. She has given me 3 assistants, the panther, the bear, and the tiger. They came to me in my dreams and appear whenever I summon them while shamaing or in deep meditation. If one of them refuses to come, the Ayami makes them obey. But they say they are some who do not obey, even the Ayami. When I am in deeper meditation, the Ayami and the assistant spirits are possessing me, whether big or small. They penetrate me as smoke or vapor would. When the Ayami is within me, it is she who speaks through my mouth, and she does everything herself, which is uncanny. And that's what we are experiencing in this day and age. It's a lot more open or accepted. It's so fascinating to me and how much acceptance has been brought into American society. That's why I was talking about witchcraft, and it's huge now. There's witches and warlocks all over the place. A lot of them remain hidden, but there's that huge society that it's on the borderlines of you're aware stuff is going on, but you can't really pinpoint if it's real or if it's fake. Does it matter? To an extent, it does, because there's a lot of evidence that there's a lot of dark witchcraft that goes on in the United States, as well as in England and London and so on and so forth. You do research, there's something dark that's taking place, and it has to do with witchcraft, and it's something that we can't ignore. It's out there. It really is. And this goes into channeling as well. So many people are channeling. A lot of them are make-believe, but some of them are real. Some of them are real, and there's a lot of it. You got to test. I've noticed so much with people channeling. There's no questions of what the channeler is presenting to the world. Why aren't we testing the spirits that are coming through? If these spirits are the real deal, you should be able to ask them particular questions of, what is the meaning behind your message? Who sent you? What is your belief or viewpoint? Challenge the spirits. You have to question the spirits. You can't just sit there and listen to somebody that's just going around in a circle and then closing their eyes and changing their voice, right? You can't just sit there and have a straight face going, all right, there's something weird going on. It sounds all hunky-dory. So many new age people, and just the fascination with ETs themselves, it brings that curiosity to a whole new level. You definitely want to listen, you want to observe, and you want to, you want to have some kind of science fiction or fantasy become more of a reality, right? A lot of people feel that their current life is dull and boring. You go to your 8 to 5 job or your evening job, whatever it may be, and then you come home, you're tired, exhausted, you try and go and work out and take care of family and things of that nature. Sometimes people want to indulge into a fantasy reality to have some kind of meaning to their life, right? Some kind of meaning to their life. So they look more into the ET aspect, and they just think it's a belief. And I've talked about that too, is that we have to move out of the mindset of a belief. A belief simply means that we don't know if it's real, we don't know what's true, but it perks our curiosity, it perks our interest. There's something to it, so we look into it further. And then as you continue your research, praying and meditation, because if you're interested in ETs and stuff, meditation is going to come into play, praying is going to come into play, and therefore you create a faith within it, because you move from belief to a faith. You've had some personal encounters with spirits, you've had guided meditations, and you've heard the spirit, through prayer, so now you're in the faith element. And then you have to move one step further. And all right, so I've done my research. I've further investigated into things. A lot of this stuff I know is true now. And there's a lot of evidence and testimonies to back up what I am experiencing and going through. So there's some kind of real truth to it. And that's the level you need to be at. That there is some kind of truth to it. There's some kind of realistic perception of things, right? So many people don't really know what they're getting themselves into. Religion is a good thing. They don't know what they're getting into. They don't know what the Bible is presenting and stuff, right? Bible. If you say that and just kind of observe it, it sounds like it's by and then Bel. By Bel. And what was Bel? Bel was idol worshiping. And when you read through the Bible, that's what it's all about. It's a journey. It's a life's journey. It's the beginning element. I know I'm kind of getting off topic here, but the Bible is an element of life, adventure into life, and then you grow old, and then you go into the state of passing over to the next life. It's a step-by-step process. And the reason why I say it's by Bel, right? Bel is an idol. It's, are you going to be able to find some kind of salvation and look within yourself instead of outside self? Because there was a whole bunch of idol worshiping, which is what's going on today, and sacrificing, listening to human doctrine and believing in human doctrine over the divine creator, and Christ himself. Christ said, I am. It's just sprinkled out through the Bible. I am that I am. I am the way, truth, and life. And that's where Christ always guided us, was to go within self, discover the stuff for ourselves, question the spirits, discern the spirits, find out how this reality works. I've been talking about this for quite a while, is that this world itself is an illusion, a delightful illusion, the Garden of Eden. It's a distraction tool. It's the Antichrist that goes against the spirit. This world is going against everything because it is of human doctrine. It is the I am perception of I want, I need to keep you away. And why is this? Why is this world trying to keep you away from discovering who you are? We're a soul in this meat suit, but we have to realize, it deals with energy, it deals with synergy, and there's spirits that surround us all the time, daily, aware or unaware, and a lot of times our energy gets drained from it. So we really have to observe all of these matters, including spirits. They're everywhere, man. I had an encounter. I don't remember if I talked about it last video or not, but I had an encounter when I was coming home, and man, there was just crows all over the place, right? There was just flocks and crows, and it's always around this time. And it could just be just because it's the fall and winter's getting ready, so they're prepared for winter, right? Or it could be something more. I mean, the crow is symbolic for a lot of things, including the spirit. The crow is said to carry the soul to the next life. The crow is also animal that is used for familiar spirits, and they can also be used for witches and warlocks to transform themselves, right? We always hear about the bat concept, but they can be crows, they can be cats. It's quite fascinating. But I was driving home, and there was two separate occasions. But I was driving home, and I ended up having this, and I wanted to record so bad, but I didn't want to wreck. But I had this crow flying right next to my car in the other lane. So I mean, like cars could have hit that bird, hit that crow, but it was just flying the whole time, man. It was like literally like 2 minutes. It was just gliding with me, and I was like, man, what in the world is that? Dude, I was like, nah, that ain't no normal crow. It could just been a coincidence, but it was acting really weird. And then eventually it just kind of just steered off and just landed. But it reminded me of the familiar spirits and things of that nature. October is a crazy month, man. It really is. It's not just the mindset of, oh, okay, well, stuff's going on, but if you're real empathic and you're real sensitive, you really end up having more vivid dreams. You end up your energy feels different. The energy in the atmosphere just feels different. There's something really supernatural that takes place, with so many rituals. And, you do research on rituals, it's no lie, there's a lot of rituals that are being performed during these times, right? There's a lot of evidence that shows this. So, we really have to be mindful in that as well. So let me get back on track here. Let's see here. Among the accused witches and cunning folk who described their familiar spirits, there were commonly certain unifying features. Let's see, the Styrian Emma noted how the accounts of such familiars were striking to their ordinariance and naturalism, despite the fact that they were dealing with supernatural entities. Familiar spirits were most commonly small animals such as cats, rats, dogs, ferrets, birds, frogs, toads, and so on and so forth. There were also cases of wasps and butterflies, as well as pigs, sheep, horses, and so on and so forth. And basically, you can summon a spirit and allow it to manifest itself into a vessel. And that's the thing too, is that people don't realize when they go through meditation and they encounter spirits. And like I said, you really have to distinguish what that is. Is it a spirit that is within you? It could be an ego, a shadow self, or is it an actual legit real spirit, that's communicating with you. And that's where you do research on channeling. What is channeling? What are you allowing to enter into your vessel? You should never have any spirit enter into your vessel, because once you open that doorway up, that can be an issue with you. It reminds me of Ghost Adventures. That's about the only true show I'll watch about ghost hunting and stuff, is that one, because there's a lot of real encounters that they have, and they have a lot of evidence to back up what they go through. But they constantly have spirits going through them, and it messes them up. And these spirits, they go home with them, and it just messes with their lives, and that's kind of, you have to realize that this stuff is not a game. So many people think it's a game. It's like, oh yeah, I'm talking to fairies and I'm allowing these spirits to communicate through me and things like that. And they always label things of like, oh, it's an Arcturian, or it's a Anunnaki, or it's a Grey, or, just labeling these spirits. But as a whole, we need to realize that it's just a spirit. It's an intelligent being, and they can lie to you. And if you look into familiar, when I was typing it in here on Facebook, familiar spirits, you break that word down, you get fam, right? You get fam, and then you got I, and you can even switch that around, take away the F, you got I am, and then you got liar at the end, right? You got liar. So you could have lying spirits, right? They can tell you whatever they want. If you believe them, then shame on you for believing somebody. We really have to test things. It's oh, what would that word be? Uh, exchange, like what is the spirit doing? Don't allow it to enter your vessel. You should always protect yourself. That was one of the things. And like I said, I've been very vocal about, what I experienced back in 2010 is, I was visited by spirits as well. They were bodiless spirits, and it could be that Christ essence, but it was also more than that. These spirits guided me into looking into things I never really thought to look into, and things of that nature. But I didn't allow the spirits to control me, but the spirits guided me into all of these elements, and they taught me the abilities to protect myself, um, to create sigils and things of that nature, right? It was quite interesting, quite fascinating. And that's where you learn more and more about these familiar spirits, about these spirits. There's so many accounts of stuff that happen throughout our lives. Um, so if these spirits are teaching you stuff and it's bettering your life, right? So these spirits are teaching me how to protect myself, how to protect my home and my family and things of that nature. Those are good spirits. The intent of those spirits was made known to me. You know, I question everything, whether it is seen or unseen. I question everything. You have to think, is it a mindset? Is it something more? Whatever it may be. So if these spirits are teaching me to protect myself, that's a good thing. There's no harm coming to anybody, and it's all about protection. It's all about love. And those are the good spirits that we come across, and that's talked about in the Bible too, about the perceived angels and how they came to people to protect them and help them out. And those are the good spirits. And we're always going to have some kind of spirits in our lives. And this brings a lot of good points with, I've talked about cursed land, especially like in native land. There's a lot of cursed land. And it had to do with a lot of medicine men and shamans, and witches and things of that nature. These familiar spirits manifested themselves, and they guard these areas, they guard these lands, and they can be of evil intent and they can be of good intent, and they're everywhere. They're everywhere, and you got to look at it in that manner, is that we got familiar spirits all over the place, and people who are playing with witchcraft and dark arts and things of that nature, they're bringing more and more and more and more spirits around us. So they surround us daily. They can shape into any kind of form they want to. And they can manipulate your mind too. You got to look at empathic abilities. If we have empathic abilities, these familiar spirits can also do the same thing. And it brings it to another subject I can't think of at the moment. But with these familiar spirits, they can just do whatever they want. Oh yeah, that's what it was. Is that people who contact the dead, and that's where it goes into necromancy. So let me read a little more about this here. Actually, I think I'll probably go ahead and just stop here. Yeah. So I mean, that's pretty much it about familiar spirits. Is that we really have to discern the spirits. We have to question what's being presented to us. I was watching another video with a couple who are pretty well known, and they were talking about their encounters with what they were told. These spirits told them that they were Arcturians, but they kept shape-shifting. They kept shape-shifting or forming into something different. And I had uh, similar experiences, right? Because I had these spirits that were communicating with me, but they had no form. So I found that fascinating. I was like, all right, so why don't you have a form? Show me what kind of form you have. So they were able to make these different kind of forms and just use the power of your imagination of like, all right, well, you want me to look like a Arcturian being? Well, You know, you've seen pictures of that. Are Palladians or a lion being or a rock being, right? Uh, any kind of form that it wants it to be, you know, it's just a more easier way of appealing to the eye or making sense of things. You know, when you're in deep meditation, a lot of times these spirits will use whatever kind of data you have in your mind to communicate with you. And that's where we really have to discern what we're seeing, you know, trying to figure out what the spirits are trying to help us or guide us to. You know, are they misleading you or are they trying to tell us something? And that's where you have to write it down and learn what is being taught or presented to you. Because if you continue on your spiritual journey, you're going to get into the fantasy realm. You're going to get into the science fiction of life. Um, then you're going to get into magic and things of that nature. Whether you perform magic or if you're just aware of magic, it's there. You know, we use the power of enchantments all the time. You know, the Bible is full of enchantments. Um, it's crazy. But enchantments, you know, we use daily. You know, we wish. I don't wish on anything, but a lot of people use that in their rituals of birthdays. You know, people wish, and that's what I was talking about with fire and stuff. And yeah, I got talking to necromancy here in a second. But I've been watching the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, the Teenage Witch, on Netflix, and it's quite fascinating, and and it's synchronicity, because you know I was talking about in my last video, talking about how fire is used to conjure up spirits, right? To conjure up spirits, and it's these spirits love fire. They love the aroma that is presented, you know, that smoky mist. You know, it's enchantments, you know, and it's summoning up spirits, you know, it's a form of rituals. And that's where you look at with sacrifices was a form of ritual. You had fire, you had smoke, and then, you know, you had the sacrifices as well. Just conjuring up all these spirits, and the more and more and more spirits you manifest, you they are on the world now. You know, all these spirits are on the world, and it's crazy, man. It really is. So let's go ahead and talk about necromancy, and then we'll get into some scriptures. Just get a whole different perception of things. There's a lot of actual books in the Bible that would be really good presentations for these kind of videos that I'm looking into. Hey, how's it going, Tina? Um, so yeah, let's go ahead and talk about necromancy. I was talking to my wife, and she was like, "Necromancy, isn't that when people summon the dead and they come back to life?" I was like, "Yeah, but there's a lot of different meanings to it too." So let's go ahead and look at the definition of this, and then we'll go from there. So necromancy is a practice of magic involving communication with the deceased, which a lot of people do, either by summoning their spirit as an apparition or raising them bodily for the purpose of divination, imparting the means to foretell future events or discover hidden knowledge, to bring someone back from the dead, or to use the deceased as a weapon, as the term may sometimes be used in a more general sense to refer to black magic or witchcraft. And that's quite fascinating, because what did Christ do? And this is what throws people off. What did Christ do? Christ rose people from the dead. So that means he practiced what? Necromancy, which is referred to what? Magic and witchcraft. And people don't realize that, you know, and that's what I talked about in the last video is that a lot, you know, Christ was questioned that, you know, what spirits was he using? You know, he must work with Beelzebub, right? And Christ said back, well, you know, who are your sons and daughters? Who are they using? What kind of spirits are they using to rise people from the dead and things of that nature as well? At the end of the day, that's what Christ was doing, was raising people from the dead. So he was performing necromancy. And that's something that you bring that to the church, and they're like, oh, no, 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 no. I was like, no, no. He's raising people from the dead. He's communicating with spirits. He's necromancy. He's performing some kind of magic. You bring that to the table to the church, boom, you're kicked out, man. Because they don't want to venture into that. They don't want to admit that. And that's what I said. Those who lack knowledge will perish because they don't look into knowledge. They don't look into wisdom. They don't question the human doctrines that have been presented to them. They just have some kind of guidebook, but they're not allowing you to think for yourself, to learn more into these manners and things of that nature. So many people hate the internet just because you can look into so many different things. Whether it's true or untrue is irrelevant. But the point is that when you question and you begin to do your research and listen to testimonies, and that's the key word, is testimonies, you begin to see more of the puzzles unfolding. Like I've said, all forms of religion and beliefs and ancestral heritage and things of that nature, you blend all this stuff together, you got a brighter picture of what's going on in this world. Our ancestors, way back, what's all written on the walls, had to do with some form of spirituality, had to do with DNA, had to do with genetics, it had to do with deep meditation and magic and all of this stuff. Conjuring up spirits was huge back then, and it's huge now. You look into Freemasonry or the dark arts behind that, and I've been talking about that briefly, is that the Illuminati and the Freemasons is a cover-up for witchcraft and the dark arts of teaching, right? Everything is hidden, but it's always sprinkles of truth within there. And at the end of the day, it's witchcraft and magic is out there. You can meet, no matter where you live, in a small town, a big town, a city, you have witches that are on your blocks. You have warlocks that are on your blocks. You have familiar spirits that walk among us at all times. And you just have to be mindful of it and realize that they're there. And it's nothing to be scared of, unless if they're actually doing harm to you. And I think that's where a lot of like the TV shows and movies really kind of make you fearful of things. But with me watching this new Sabrina, and a lot of people will be like, why are you watching that new Sabrina Netflix thing? It's all pure evil, and they worship Satan and Bel and stuff like that. But the key thing is it's part of research. The people who made this show are really smart because they bring a lot of interesting concepts. When I watch anything, I review the content of what's being presented out. Is it smart? Is it stupid? Does it bring a lot of good points? I look at all these manners, and there's a lot of good points in this. It really gets you on that level of, what if there are witches out there? What kind of lifestyle do they represent? Is there ways of keeping yourself secret, from the world, right? Because if you are a witch or a warlock, you'd be prosecuted, and then go back into the witch trials and things of that nature. So they keep themselves hidden. And you look into witch hunters and things like that as well. I think there's some kind of balance. There's a balance between the human realm, and then those who practice more of the dark arts of life, right? And I've been very vocal about, my views on things, and how I'm guided by the spirits. I've been in contact with spirits. I've been through deep meditation and things of that nature. There's some kind of fantasy element behind all of this. And it's quite fascinating. Uh, so let's go ahead and we'll continue on here. Let's see here. Let's see. The word necromancy is adapted from late Latin, itself borrowed from Greek, so on and so forth. Just saying dead body or divination by means of. Let's see here. Let's see. Early necromancy was related to and most likely involved from shamans, which calls upon spirits such as ghosts of ancestors. Classical necromancers address the dead in a mixture of high-pitched squeaking and low droning. Or just different kinds, that goes into the native language, of the hi hoya, or the light language aspect of speaking in tongues of husamane kiyo husamehiyado. And it's a natural, it really is, and it really kind of brings a whole different atmosphere of things. Where as a whole, we're so disconnected with everything. If we were taught the way we're supposed to be, learning about the power of oneness, the power of synergy, working with together through energy, and through the spirits, right? This earth is alive, and this earth has all of these elemental spirits and familiar spirits and things of that nature. They keep it alive. Like I said, this physical reality is the illusion. It's the realm that is unseen, which is the true realm. Everything is run off of energy. Just like the wind itself. We can feel the wind, we can see the effects of the wind, but we don't see the true nature of the wind. What does the wind actually look like? And I brought that a couple videos ago, is that it reminded me that the wind kind of reminded me of spirits moving around, right? The concepts of spirits just moving around. And I was testing the spirits out, and they would make one tree move over here, and then they would make some trees move over here, and they would just kind of just migrate the trees, and they would just kind of brush through that way, and then they'd come back over to my tree over here, and this was the only tree that was moving. Nothing else was moving. So it was the spirits communicating with me, and it's a bizarre thing. And then we have big, huge winds going through. It's just a massive amount of spirits or energy that is passing through, right? You go to the whole scientific fact if you want of how wind works, but to me, that scientific fact doesn't make sense. But spirits make sense. Energy makes sense to me. The flow of energy makes sense to me. All life is produced from energy. I mean, just like the sun. You see the sun up there, you feel the warmthness of the sun, but what's causing that sun to make everything grow, right? What's causing everything to make it grow? It has a whole different effect on your skin. You feel energized or you feel tired. And when you bathe in the sun, it has to do with some kind of energy. And it's quite fascinating, and it's really, you have to look at it in that manner. Are you simplistic in the mind, or are you an observer of your reality as well? Let's see what else we got here. Let me see how long I've been talking here. Not quite an hour. So we'll go ahead and we'll talk about this a little bit more, and then I got to get into, let's see here. Alright, so comparable to trance states, let's see. Classical necromancers address the dead in a mixture of high-pitched and low-pitched voice, comparable to the trance state muttering of shamans. Necromancy was prevalent throughout Western parts, with records of its practice in ancient Egypt, Babylonian, Greece, and Rome. and its Graphica Strabo refers to or diviners of the dead as a foremost practitioner of divination among the people of Persia. And it is believed to have also been widespread among the people, and so on and so forth. Just kind of an origin. There really isn't a whole lot talking about. They're talking about rituals involving magic circles, wands, talismans, incantations, and things of that nature, and so on and so forth. So we'll go ahead. We'll talk about that briefly, but the reason why I talk about necromancy itself is that there's so many people that communicate with the dead, and it really brings people in. You know, there's a couple people I watch on Facebook and YouTube that communicate with the dead, and when the spirits communicate, they really know the people that they're talking to, right? He'll be used as a host, and he'll hear the spirit saying, "Oh, I'll do an example. It'll be like, hey, you know, I sense that there's an older gentleman here, and he's showing me a scarf, and he has overalls on, and he has glasses, and he's showing me this pony, this toy pony, and there's some kind of significant value to that pony, and things of that nature, right?" And these spirits will just kind of show that, and you'll have all of these people communicating, and then one of them will be like, "Oh, that's me, that's me," and it gets into a deep conversation with communicating with the dead. Now, here's the catch, though, and that's what I said, is that you don't know who you're talking to when these people are talking with these spirits. You know, are they witches? Are they warlocks? You know, are they using familiar spirits, right? Because what are familiar spirits? You know, they're spirits that you can send out there. You know, and like with TV screens, right? You got TVs, you got the screens of phones and the screens of laptops and things of that nature, right? These are portals that energy can transfer over. You know, it's not limited to the screen. So these familiar spirits can learn everything about you, right? They can communicate with you. They're empathic, and they can get all of this information, right? And there's two ways to do this. Either that person will persuade you into giving you the answers to things in advance, so then they can kind of manipulate you in that manner, or they can be the real deal, but they use spirits and familiar spirits to get the information, whether that vessel is aware or unaware of that. So really have to be mindful of that, and really have to, you know, I mean, I've had encounters with spirits, you know, and it's hard to say. For me personally, that's what I'm looking into. It's hard to say if these are spirits that were once on the earth and they died and they're trapped here, or if they're familiar spirits and they just use these kind of forms to communicate you in some way, shape, or form. You know, it's hard to say. It really is. I mean, there's so many ways that this can go. You know, I study very thoroughly in spirits. I try to figure out how they work, what the meaning behind things are. You know, just like cemetery, right? You know, there's always some kind of spirit or spirits that are always there communicating with you. And could it be some of the dead people that are there? Or could it be familiar spirits that are protecting the land of the dead? It's hard to say. You know, it goes into a lot of different interesting perceptions of things. So, yeah, let's go ahead and we'll read some scriptures and get to going here, because a lot of this stuff is just kind of boring. But as a whole, you know, we have rich history with spirits, and that's the main purpose of this video, is that there is a rich history about spirits. There's rich history about witchcraft, rich history in curses and cursing other people. You know, you get into voodoo magic, cursing the land, and these familiar spirits guarding these areas. You know, and it kind of reminds me too about the Garden of Eden. You know, they even stated in there, and there's a lot of symbolism behind it, but it kind of goes with this, is that the Garden of Eden, the perceived Elohim, or the God of the Garden of Eden, put this cherubim, or the spirit, at the entrance of Garden of Eden, and no one can enter it now. No one can enter into the Garden of Eden because a spirit is there to guard and protect it. So even back then in the Bible, you know, it talks about all of these spirits protecting the lands, or curse the lands, or things of that nature, right? Man, it's crazy stuff. But like I said, it's documented. It's a part of our history. And we really need to dig deeper into this, because this affects our daily lives. You know, our empathic abilities affect our daily lives in some way, shape, or form. And you don't know if you'll run into a witch. You don't know if you'll run into a warlock or a familiar spirit, just like that crow I saw. And I always have these kind of weird encounters with animals and things of that nature. You know, I communicate real well with animals. You know, I just have that connection. You know, I love cats. I have cats that surround me, and they're my children. You know, I talk to them as children, and they have such unique personalities to them. And as a whole, you know, they're different. I know it's off topic, but they're different kind of beings. You know, all life is just some kind of different type of being. And at the end of the day, you know, one of the tests for you on this earth is if you can live amongst the animals. This is the animal kingdom. And you have to learn to respect and appreciate the animal things, the animal way of life, right? A lot of people think the animals are stupid and dumb and things of that nature. And those are the ones that are driven in ego and just are communicating or have a heart for life, you know. And it's so funny because animals communicate better than us humans. You know, humans fight amongst each other because of race and religion and all of this stupid stuff, right? So at the end of the day, animals are more tamer than humans. Humans are wild, rambunctious monkeys. And it's true too. It really is. So let's go ahead and we'll read some scriptures, and then I'll probably go ahead and close this out. So it's quite fascinating stuff, really is. Let's see here. All right, so Leviticus 19:31. Do not turn to mediums or necromancers. Do not seek them out, and so make yourselves unclean by them. And it just means just be mindful of things, you know. And it's like I said, it's so funny reading about that. Do not turn to mediums or necromancers. But at the end of the day, that's what Christ was. Christ was a medium. Christ was a necromancer. He raised the dead. He purified the bodies. He summoned out demons out of people, things of that nature. You don't do that stuff unless if you're involved with magic. So it's just, at the end of the day, it's just being mindful. You know, don't be seeking out other humans for answers. You know, look at it within you. You know, I am. Look within you. You know, that's what I did from 2010 to now and continuing on. I constantly question the spirits. I constantly look into things. I want to learn more about what's going on behind this veil. Deep meditation, praying, communicating, observing my environments, observing people, how I feel around them, uh, the empathic abilities, when I have a sudden change in mood settings, whether it be anxiety or um, doubt or uh, uh, just many different things. I always question everything, so you need to question it. It's just being mindful in those manners, not just going to some person, and that's what I talked about tarot cards and stuff, is that just because somebody says something good, be like, oh man, that those tarot cards really spoke to me, um, and they reel you in, so then you go to them again and spend more money, and again and again and again, you're relying on that person and their what that word, incantations, or just what they're presenting to you. And it's an outside self uh, act when you should be going within yourself and discovering the stuff for yourself. If these people aren't teaching you the importance of going within yourself, healing yourself, looking within yourself, conquering your demons, because that's one of the number one things that you have to do when you go through a spiritual journey, is you have to go deep within your soul, and start getting those shadow beings and those demons out of you, learning the power of forgiveness and the power of surrender. Forgive those past experiences and then surrender it out to Christ, or surrender it out to God or the Creator, and surrendering it out. I release this, the enchantment of I release this, you know, this no longer serves my purpose. I release this, and it's so very important to realize the abilities that you have. And like I said, as so many people don't trust themselves, be like, oh, I don't trust myself. I just give to Jesus. I don't trust myself. I don't know what to do with myself. I don't trust myself. You're never going to get anywhere in life if you have that kind of mindset. It's all about the mindset. It's all about the will and intent of what you're wanting to progress in life. That's the state of maturity. That's the state of exploration of the spirit, of doctrines and things of that nature, right? I really stay clear of reading books. I want to be as pure and as raw with the material that I present out, because I don't want to be influenced by other people that much. I want my journey to be a exploration. And it reminds me of back in the day, when people didn't have the internet, so people wrote a lot of books, and a lot of those books were pure raw testimonies from experiences, not from this author said this and this author said that and that author said this and this author said that, right? It's it's uh it's some form of influence from other people, but when you have your own personal uh journey and experience and things of that nature, it runs a whole new horizon of things. It really does. The Bible itself, is such a interesting thing, and that's why I said I read the Bible, because it's such a fascinating way of looking at life. And I'm going to be really bringing a lot of interesting things to the table with the Bible. A lot of retooling. Like I said, I really feel that we have to retool the Bible for the modern times, because the Bible talks so much in a way of the past that a lot of people just can't relate with it. And then you get into religion, and then people are like, well, I don't want to go to church, because the church people, they always end up being hypocritical, or they judge you, or you can't question things are being presented out. So we really have to modernize things and look what Christ was teaching us, all about the I am, and it's quite fascinating. So I'll talk about that in another video. I want to stay on track here. So we'll go ahead and we'll keep reading here. So Isaiah 8:19. And when they say to you, inquire of the mediums and the necromancers who chirp and mutter, should not a people inquire of their God? Should they inquire of the dead on behalf of the living? And that goes into, again, is that we have to use the power of discernment. We have to use the power of discernment, What are these spirits telling us? What are the spirits trying to communicate with us? There are so many channelers that I watch that say, oh, this world is going through a huge shift. We got another planetary alignment. And then it goes to astronomy and saying, well, uh, Capricorn is merging with so on and so forth, and that's why we're going through the energies we're going through. All of these things that these perceived spirits or people tell you on how you should feel or why you're feeling the way you're feeling. A way of presenting that state of relate or synchronicity, right? There's always some form of synchronicity, and as a whole, I really do feel it's like part of the divine plan of choice. There's so many choices in this reality. A lot of these choices are distractions. Distractions are a big one. Like I said, you live in this Garden of Eden, or this garden of delight, this world of delight, and everything sounds good, pleasing to the eyes, pleasing to the ears. But at the end of the day, people are persuading you to think outside self. If these people aren't teaching you to go within yourself, to learn the power of discernment, the power to heal yourself and forgive yourself, and that the kingdom of heaven is within you, and all of these abilities are within you, but then you need to discard them. You can listen to them, and sometimes things are good for research. Like I said, when you listen to somebody, research is key. And sometimes when you're led to these people, it's a part of research. And you got to make sure that you don't be consumed or consumed by what they're presenting to the table. It's just a part of the journey. Quite fascinating journey in that. Let's see, what else we got here? Leviticus 26. If a person turns to mediums and necromancers, whoring after them, I will set my face against that person, and I will cut him off from among his people. I will cut him off among the people. And back in the day, that's what they did back in the day, is that they would stone people and things of that nature because of magic. And in this day and age, so many people are performing magic and rituals and things of that nature, and there seems to be no kind of judgment call on those acts. So it's really accepted in a lot of ways. Isaiah 19:3, and the spirit of the Egyptians within them. Wait, let me see here. And the spirit of the Egyptians within them will be emptied out, and I will confound their counsel, and they will inquire of the idols and the sorcerers and the mediums and the necromancers. And that goes into, if you look into the tombs of the Egyptians and stuff and how they purified the bodies, right? And again, it's quite fascinating. You look into the Freemasonry temple. I think it's in Washington or New York, something like that, where they have what is his name? I think it's Albert Pike. I think that's who it is. Albert Pike. They have his body buried there, and there's a lot of these sayings that that when you mummify a body, that spirit is still attached to that body, and that you can summon the spirit again. and you can utilize those spirits to go into another vessel. If you do a lot of research, and it's dark, if you do some research, that's what people who, when they're preparing to have a child, right, or they want to conceive a child, they will perform a ritual to summon uh, spirits from the past, right? Spirits from the past, and then those souls will go into the mother and go and manifest itself into the baby. It's deep stuff, right? uh, and that's where a lot of people, some people claim to be from the past and things like that. You get into reincarnation, things of that nature. It's hard to say if it's true. It's hard to say it's not. But it's definitely stuff that you have to pay attention to. I've talked about my perceived past lives as a Lyran cat being, which is why I have all of these cat pictures around me, because I resonate with that. That can also be a representation of let's see, was it the tribe of Judah? I think is a representation of the lion or something like that. Lion is a huge representation um, of some kind, right? So I really relate with that. I've had a lot of past lives with that. At least a lot of memories, a lot of memories. And they came from somewhere, right? And it could be imagination. It's hard to say, but the stuff is too real. It's too real to me. And there's a lot of people that I've met within that realm. I've been Nocturian as well. I've had many life forms in that. And there's testimonies from people who have also been Octurians and Lyran cat beings, and we have very similar stories. So that makes it real, because I've never met this person before, but we talk about past lives and the similarities that we both experience, and it's uncanny. It really is. And I may not even talk to that person, and they'll be talking about past lives as an Octurian or a Lyran, and be like, wow, that's real stuff. It's documented, that we both experienced those stuff. So two strangers have a testimony and very similar concepts that makes you realize, there's some kind of truth behind these past life scenarios, or being as different kind of beings. There's some kind of truth to it. So we have to be mindful that, this stuff can take place, that reincarnation can take place. And, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, how does the whole, when our spirit leaves our body, how does that work? If you hurt people and that you were just a very a selfish soul, right? You would think that you would have to go through some kind of judgment call and trial to maybe have a sense of redeeming yourself, or maybe the spirit goes through some kind of purification process. There's so many elements there. Scientists, or just like atheists is a good example. They'll really try to pan out, that our life is ran by the mind, right? That the mind allows us to create our personality. But I really feel that's false. I feel that the mind is just the engine for this body, that allows us to move our hands, allows us to move our mouth, and our eyes and things of that nature. It's just that mind is used as the vessel, as the mechanical functions of the suit, right? So, and it makes sense to me. So say if you damage the mind, your suit's not going to work properly. You damage your car, right? It's not going to work properly. But as a whole, it's the soul. There's a divine spark. It's already documented through science. The science has already documented on how the soul leaves, is that it enters through here, and then escapes through, the soul escapes through the third eye, and it adventures outwards. So there's some kind of spark. There would be no kind of uh, realistic approach or animation or things like that, if there wasn't some kind of a divine spark of life, right? I mean, it wouldn't make any sense. It would have to be, we would have to be like some kind of androids. You look into how androids function as a whole, and it would be mechanical in nature. So if we were really ran by the mind, it would be mechanical in nature, and it wouldn't make any sense. I think that's where you can really tell people who have souls and people who do not have souls. Again, that's where you really test people. Like sometimes you'll go into a restaurant, something like that, and be like, you can really feel the energy from these couples, right? But then you have other couple over here, and you don't sense nothing, absolutely nothing. It's like you see them, but they're not really there. So what are they? Are they a hologram? Are they a projection? What are they? It's one of them bizarre things. Same way with cloning. You get to genetics. I know I'm getting off track here, but as a whole, it deals with the spirit. But you deal with genetics and cloning and things of that nature, right? You can download memories and things like that, to make the person seem real, right? It's just the emotional contrast of things, right? But as a whole, they would just be running off memories instead of the spirit, right? Instead of the spirit. And that's for those who really have a spirit. They're seeking truth. They're soul searching. Sometimes they have a big heart too, right? Those who are seeking truth and knowledge usually have a big heart, and they're full of emotions and a sense of rawness and things of that nature. So it's driven off of something, right? Compared to those who live more from the mind, and a lot of it just doesn't make sense at the end of the day. I hope that makes sense. I mean, I don't really know how else to put that. But as a whole, our spirit, there is a spirit, a divine spirit that is within us, that makes us unique, and it's a lot more than just this chemical computer up here. So it's bizarre stuff. Let's see here. Acts 16, 16 through 18. As we were going to the place of prayer, we were met by a slave girl who had a spirit of divination, and brought her owners much gain for fortune telling. She followed Paul and us, crying out, "These men are servants of the Most High, who proclaim to you the way of salvation." And this she kept doing for many days. Paul, having become greatly annoyed, turned and said to the spirit, "I command you in the name of Mashiach to come out of her." And it came out that very hour. And we have that ability too. Is that when people are persuading us, there's people that nag at you, or that trying to belittle you. A lot of people, they know not what they do, right? They know not what they do. They're consumed by other spirits. They're consumed by their ego. This is why it's so important to pay attention and be mindful of what you put in your body and things of that nature, because you can have these spirits be attached to you, and you're not even aware of it. You got the spirit that can be a gossiper, a spirit of a liar, a spirit that wants to consume sugar, things like that. And then when you're on spiritual practices and you're dealing with crystals, and fire and sigils and things of that nature, you're entering more spirits into your vessel. So that's why you have to learn the power of protection, the power of prayer, and things of that nature. So then, when these spirits try to communicate with you, you'll have this barrier and this shield that surrounds you. And that's like I said, that's what the spirits taught me is that protection is because once you enter into that spirit realm, it's a whole new reality. It's a whole new reality. You see life differently. Um, you begin to hear the spirits and things like that. And if you're not ready for it, it can drive you crazy. And it makes a lot of sense why people who hear voices, it drives them mad because they don't know how to handle it. That's that's uh, that's what my grandma went through. She heard all these voices, and it was just it wasn't dealt the way it should have, right? They just label you schizophrenia, and then they put you in a loony bin, and then there you go, right? I ain't no doctor, but at the end of the day, I really feel that it could have been handled differently. And that's what we have to prepare ourselves when we're born into a bloodline, is that there can be a lot of curses within that bloodline. You never know uh, throughout your bloodline, if there's witches and warlocks back then, if there's curses and things like that, right? Or there could have been evil spirits within your bloodline, that you have to use the power of healing and things of that nature, right? Especially if you're strong empathic. Maybe my grandma was real empathic and she just didn't know how to handle it. So it just goes into all these things, right? Like I said, I bring a mature nature to all these, and question a lot of it. I really feel that we could really change the world in a whole new way if we really look deeper into these spiritual elements of things. Because people's moods change all the time. I mean, there's so many people that'll be happy one day, and then all of a sudden throughout the day they'll just do a whole 360, and then they'll just be mad and angry for no apparent reason, and then all of a sudden they'll be happy and stuff, and it just doesn't make any sense. It's not natural. You should not have those kind of mood swings like that. There's some kind of influence, some kind of spirits that are influencing you to have those kind of changes um, throughout the day. It's not you, it's something. Something is affecting you. Um, and I'm very mindful of that. If I feel any kind of change, I question it. I observe my situation. I observe the mood settings and things of that nature, going, okay, what was that shift? What was that change? Why to feel that spirit of anxiety or that spirit of depression? Where did it come from? What is it doing? Things like that. And we really have to be mature in that mindset of that we should not have these emotions that change just like that, where you're happy one day or 1 minute and then you're sad or you're depressed the next. There's some kind of involvement, some kind of spiritual activity that is involved in this stuff, and that's what I present out to you guys, is that we have to look at this stuff deeper. It's not just, oh, it's just part of the human experience. It's a lot more than that. Um, it is, a lot of the stuff we're being deceived and lied to about these elements. And we have to look at it in a deeper manner. Let's continue forth here. Let's see here. Leviticus 20:27. A man or a woman who is a medium or a necromancer shall surely be put to death. They shall be stoned with stones, their blood shall be upon them. And again, like I said, is that we have to look into a deeper manner. But like I said, in New York City, they had that on the news, of people who have these witchcraft stores, right? And it's accepted, so we have to really realize we're going back, and this is what I feel, is that we're going back into the realm of wizards and warlocks and magic and things of that nature. I really feel we're getting more more in tune with that, because when you're on a spiritual journey, you're going to deal with spirits, you're going to deal with magic, you're going to deal with protection spells and sigils and things of that nature, right? It's a part of us, and it's because we're not using those elements of protection and things of that nature. It has made us vulnerable and weak um, to these spirits, so these spirits can just leech on to us. um, so we really had to be mindful of that. Back in the day, um, it was unaware of how that worked. So now we're entering to that stage again of learning how magic works, how it's worked in our daily lives, and that's what I said before, is that the English language is a reverse language, and it puts spells on us daily. So we really have to be mindful of how we say things and things of that nature. And that's what Christ said too. Christ said, that he would come back with a double-edged sword. So when you look at the word words, right, you put the S in front of the W, you get swords. So it's a double-edged sword. That means that Christ is going to speak from both viewpoints, just like what I'm talking about. I'm not saying I'm Christ-like, but as a whole, you know, we're going to be looking at both manners of things, on how the spiritual realm works, how the physical reality works, how we better our lives. We look at ways of protecting ourselves, things like that. The old ways of getting on your hands and knees and begging and pleading with God. Why is my life this way? Please, Lord God, help me get through this kind of situation. That was the old way of thinking. Now we have meditation, we have meditation techniques, we learn about protection, we learn about spirits, and that these perceived angels and messengers, there's good ones and there's bad ones. It's the spirit realm. The spirit realm is just like our realm. You have good spirits, you got bad spirits, you got spirits that's going to work with you got spirits that are going to work against you. They work with us daily, and we have to learn on how that works. That's what the Bible is all about with these messengers. They were there as a guide, and a messenger from the Most High or from Christ, whatever it may be. There was some kind of influence there that we were learning about. And now we're learning about protection again, and not allowing these vampire spirits to consume our life, because that's what's happening, is that there's some kind of spiritual presence involved. And it gets on so many different manners. But at the end of the day, it's about bettering your life and making your life better. And that's always the key thing. That's what I bring to you guys, is making your life better, is getting back into meditation, getting back to praying, finding a foundation. Like I said, Christ is my foundation. Finding a foundation, a go home to place, a sacred place that you can go to. So when your life is chaotic and you have these emotions that are running rampant, whether it be anxiety or depression, things of that nature, you got to just go, okay, I need to stop. I need to go back to this go home to place. I need to pray and meditate and get centered back in my life again, so I can be balanced out and not so crazy and chaotic in the mind where I can't even think straight. And it's all these manners that we really have to look into. Like I said, spirits influence us daily. There is something that is influencing people. I was watching this video, and this person was just driving on by, and then all of a sudden this person was just calling this person a whole bunch of bad names, and claiming this person was stupid and dumb, and but more fouler language than that. And he was just scratching himself, and it was just acting unnatural, right? And so he was influenced by spirit. There was a spirit of jealousy, a spirit of deceit, um, gossiping spirit, whatever it was, that person was not acting like a person should. He was influenced by a spirit. And that spirit just kept talking over and over again, insulting this person um, constantly, and that again, and that's why I say that they know not what they do. They're being influenced by some kind of outside source. And at the end of the day, that's what this is all about, is learning more about what familiar spirits are. Learning that they can uh, manipulate your mind. They can make you see things um, that it wants you to see. These familiar spirits can be good spirits. They can be bad spirits. They can come in many different forms. You know, um, just like I've had 2 cats outside, right? All my cats I keep indoors. Um, but there's 2 cats outside I've noticed, and they just kind of hang out on my property. And then when I go out there, then they run away. And I try to call them over here. I've had one come to me, but the other one just refuses to come over here. Those could be familiar spirits too that are maybe they're protecting me or they're watching, observing me. It gets into so many different things, right? You know, Other people just think they're just cats just hanging out. But or you could be a deep thinker like me and go, well, maybe there's something more to it. There's something more to everything. It just depends on how much will and intent you put into things, and at the end of the day, that's what we're looking into with these matters. That's what my channel is all about, is looking at the deeper meaning of things, not taking things so literally. Um, and just how people just get so caught up in what other people say, hearsay stuff, right? I don't have, I don't really have any proof, that these spirits are around. All I can do is just give you guys my testimony, my personal experience with the spirits, what they've taught me, what they've shown me, and then the testimonies that other people have are very similar to mine. So there's some kind of truth there. So we really have to use that power of discernment and not just wait and hope that some Christ or Messiah is going to come down here to save us, or that these ET beings are going to come down here and uh, uh, take control over the government. It's just there's just so many distractions. And that's why I said, uh, the religious Christian people, they focus so much on the gloom and doom of things, of end times, and can't wait till the end times happens, so then Christ will come and save us, right? And then you got the New Age people that are waiting for ET beings to show up, and that all ET beings are light beings, and that they won't deceive nobody. It's just it's it's just crazy on how so many people will fall into that kind of categories. Same way with people who are super, all about love and light, love and light, love and light. Um, oh, you got to stay away from the darkness, man. It's all about love and light. Let's hug each other and hold each other's hands and things of that nature. It's a really unrealistic approach. There's people who are trying to better their lives, but they're going through hard times in their life. They're learning how to balance their life. And then you got these people going, oh, don't give in to those dark urges. But if you're not dealing with the balance of that, we're both light and night self, right? We're light and dark. And we have to learn to balance it together. We're not trying to push away the darkness to be full light, because that is, you're not learning anything from it. We're from the darkness, and we have to balance the darkness, right? Darkness is a symbolism of hidden, or of the birth or the 0 point, right? And we have to deal with that darkness. And then once we deal with the darkness, then we bring the light in. And then the light essence is the one that balances out the darkness. So we're joined together and become that yin and yang. So that balanced state. Those who are all about love and light, and they proclaim themselves to be love and light, I really, find it hard. You know, there's not really a sense of a realistic perception of things, right? And a lot of times, uh, they're just really high, um, not just high on life, but they're just out there. Uh, so we really have to bring a realistic approach. You know, that's what I'm all about, is bringing realistic approaches to these manners. You know, get to the bottom of it. So many people have, like I said, so many different beliefs and faiths and things that, you know, it just really divides the people. So I'm all about unifying people, bringing people together in all walks of life. Um, I think as a whole, if we're helping each other better our lives, you know, that's what it's really all about, is bettering people's lives, learning about the power of healing, prayer, meditation, things of that nature. And that's what we need to be presenting to the world. Through all of this magic stuff and witchcraft and familiar spirits and all of this stuff, man, at the end of the day, you know, we have to have that kind of knowledge and wisdom of what's going on, and we have to be prepared for that. You know, there's going to be a time coming when people's faith will be tested, their beliefs will be shattered, their religious views will be destroyed, and they're going to have some kind of place to go. Like I said, you know, the go home to place is the Christ within you, and that's the place you need. So when there's chaos in the world, you go within yourself, you're like, hey, all right, it's time for me to adventure out. I've learned what I need to learn. I've learned to balance myself. I've learned to heal myself, the power of forgiveness and surrender, things of that nature. Now I'm able to go out into the world of chaos and bring balance into the people who are running around frantic, not knowing what to do because their beliefs have been shattered, their faith has been shattered, their religion has been shattered, and they have nowhere to go because they focus so much on the outside reality that they've lost touch with the spirit. They lost touch with the divine creator, with the most high, right? With God. They've lost that connection. They don't know how to connect back because they focus so much on books and human doctrines. And at the end of the day, um, you know, that's what this message in this video is all about. There's so many other scriptures I want to read here. I'll probably go ahead and read a couple more. Man, I've been talking for almost 2 hours. Wow. But at the end of the day, you know, that's what we're really learning about, is discerning spirits, is to make our life better at the end of the day. You know, we're so heavily influenced by people. Um, it's crazy, man. So let me go ahead and we'll read a couple more scriptures here and get out of here. Let's see. 2 Corinthians 33:6. And he burned his children as an offering in the valley of son of Hanan, and used fortune telling and omens and sorcery, and dealt with mediums and necromancers. He did much evil in the sight of the Most Highs, provoking him to anger. Again, back in the day, you know, people, when they were worshiping idols and feeling that they had to sacrifice uh, life to gods, to bless their lands, um, it was a lack of understanding of the within self. You know, everybody focused outside self. Deuteronomy is 18:10. There shall not be found among you anyone who burns his children as an offering. Anyone who practices divination or tells fortune tellers or interprets omens, or a sorcerer. 2 Kings 21:6. And he burned his children as an offering, and used fortune telling omens, and dealt with mediums and necromancers. He did much evil, provoking in anger. And it's so very fascinating and how that's very similar. Second Chronicles and Second Kings had very similar scriptures, so they're all one and the same. See, 2 Kings 23:24. Moreover, Josiah put away the mediums and the necromancers and the household gods and idols and all the abominations that were seen in the land of Judea and Jerusalem. That he might establish the words of the law that were written in the book that Hilkiah the priest found in the house of the Most High. Deuteronomy 18:11. Or a charmer or a medium necromancer or one who inquires of the dead. And that's kind of a half scripture there. That's something I like to read. Deuteronomy is quite interesting. Let's see here. Revelations 21:8. But as for the cowardly, the faithless, the detestable, as for murderers, sexual, immoral, sorcerers, adulterers, or idol worshippers, and all liars, their portion will be in the lake that burns with fire and sulfur, which is the second death. And that's just, that's the judgment of the souls. And I talked about that too. I really feel, there's just so many things that deal with your spirit. When you leave, there is a realm outside this reality. And, it weighs our soul. And there's so many talks of like layers of heaven and things of that nature. So that's something that I'm definitely still researching. But at the end of the day, there's some kind of afterlife that we have to look into. First Chronicles 10:13. So Saul died for his breach of faith. He broke faith with the Most High in that he did not keep the commands of the Most High and also consulted a medium in seeking guidance. Again, if you don't trust yourself and if you're not sitting down and having a personal relationship with Christ or the Most High, or that you're anxious and seeking answers, right? And I'll probably go ahead and end it on that. Is that if you're seeking answers from other humans, then you're being led astray. You're not putting your spirit to the test. You're not putting yourself to the test, right? Because we go through trials and tribulations in our life, and it's that power of faith first with Christ, and then just listening to seeing where the Spirit is guiding you, right? Where the Spirit is guiding you. Everything that happens in your life happens for a reason, especially when you're on a spiritual journey. You learn about life in a whole different manner. And when you look at life as a whole, right? And if you're on a spiritual journey, things get real deep. Things get real emotional within your life, and you really begin to shed a lot of skins of self, right? Shed a lot of skins of self, whether it be through ego, emotions, sinful nature within your life. And, like I learned, sin, the word was a representation of darkness or the moon, right? So it's that darkness within your life that we have to deal with. And we have to deal with that shadow aspect of self to better our lives and make it better as well. Like I said, it's all about bettering your life. If at anything else, this earth is a school to help us learn how to better our lives, how to uplift the spirits, uplift the soul, and then to get ourselves uplifted into newer realms of life, right? There has to be some kind of reason why we see the lowest of the low with people and we see the highest of the high with people. There has to be some kind of a structure there. There has to be some kind of layer or something there. That fascinates me too, is that, there has to be some kind of reason why there's people who stay in the low realm and stay in the high realm. And with that, does that allow us to get into a higher state when we move on in life, past this life? I don't know. I don't know, but I do feel that when the spirit or the soul matures, that maturity goes somewhere. It goes back to the divine spirit, that divine essence, that creator. And there is a purpose for that. We create for a reason, right? We choose to create. We choose to create these kind of platforms, right? I chose um, to make these videos, to make these podcasts, um, to be that voice that I never had. I've talked about this many times in my videos, is that I never had a voice that was able to help me go through the things I was going through. I was a super depressed person. I had no friends. I thought that God hated me and things of that nature, right? And um, then I was visited by these spirits in 2010, and it changed my life, right? It changed my life. They guided me, and they brought me even closer to Christ, because Christ was always the foundation. Even through the darkest moments in my life, Christ was always there. So the spirits guided me. They guided me back to Christ, and allowed me to get a more deeper relationship with Christ in my life, and get a deeper connection back with the Most High. And as a whole, that was the journey, and free will that I was able to experience, right? I get to choose if I want to spend my time making videos or not. If I'm consistent with these videos, it's going to continue to flourish and blossom into something. And as I bring these topics up, just like we're talking about with magic and witchcraft and things of that nature, there's a reason behind it. There's a theme behind all these videos I make. I present this stuff out for a reason. It's for a sense of maturity. It's for a sense of bettering your life and looking at all walks of life, right? Because we got extreme religion people, we got New Age people, we got spiritualists, shamans, witches and warlocks as well. All walks of life. But at the end of the day, if these practices are not helping in your daily life, then you need to sit back, go home to place, your foundation, and backtrack and go, okay, hey, this is what was working in my life. This is what was not working in my life. And that's why I use the new moon, full moon perception of things, because it gives you a guiding point of what to look at in your life, on how to better relationships, how are relationships going in your life, how is the work environment going in your life, is your spiritual life going the way it needs to go, a self-reflection of your life, how is your life getting better, or is your life getting worse? If your life is getting worse, what is causing it? What are you doing to change your life as a whole? So that's what I'm all about, is that bettering your life is key. And you have to be aware of that. You have to be aware that there's magic that surrounds us. There's familiar spirits that surround us and manipulates our minds and our energy in a good way and in a bad way. So we really have to use that power of discernment as a whole. So hopefully this video makes sense. Hopefully this helps you guys in some way, shape, or form. I mean, this video is made for somebody. So definitely, at the end of the day, it's all about making the best version of you. That's what I'm all about. And, and it's all about going back within self, that go home to place, learning about praying again, learning about meditation. Praying is talking with Christ, talking with the Most High, talking with the spirits. Meditation is walking with the Most High, walking with Christ, walking with the spirits, having that visual presentation of learning how to better your life. Like I said, these spirits, they taught me how to protect myself. They taught me how to summon other spirits to protect my house and protect me as I'm out there. They taught me about sigils and all this stuff. These spirits are intelligent, and whatever they are, right? Whatever these spirits are, You know, it's hard to say if maybe you know there's a witch or warlock that's watching me or protecting me. You know, it really is hard to say on how it works. But if these spirits are helping you in any way, shape, or form, and they're not harming anybody, then these spirits are good, and you can work with these spirits and be guided by these spirits and work with them, right? You know, just like in the Bible, you know, in Revelations, you know, he wanted to fall to the feet of the angel, and that's what he did. But the angel or the messenger was like, no, you get back on your feet. I am just a messenger and nothing more, right? These visions that I showed you are from the Most High, or from Christ, you know, as things that could happen or may not happen. But at the end of the day, they're messages, right? Messages, you know, it's ways of bettering your life. And there's also, like I said, familiar spirits. You know, you got liars right in there. So these spirits can also be liars and deceivers. So you really have to be mindful in what you learn and learn about protection as well. So that's where energy work comes in too. Energy work is a huge part in our daily lives as a whole as well. So learning about energy, you know, yoga gives you kind of that technique, but it's really you have to learn how energy works as a whole. So, and that gets on a whole different subject. So, but yeah, at the end of the day, yeah, just the power of discernment. Realize, you know, that spirits surround us daily. Familiar spirits of any kind surround us in our daily lives. Both could be in a body, in a vessel. Could be an animal. You know, it could be anything, right? I had a dream. I got to cut this short here, but I had a dream. Actually 2 nights in a row about these beings, and the first dream I had, we were like down in a basement or something like that, and we were cleaning out these tanks or something like that, and I was trying to talk with these guys, and then they disappeared, and then all of a sudden this creature showed up. I was in the dome, so it was really like uh, a form of protection that I was protected, but these spirits are trying to get in. So I had this weird looking spirit that had like uh, 3 eyeballs up here and then an eyeball here, and they were like green eyes, and it was a lady with tentacles and things like that, and it was trying to get into my tank or trying to break into my barrier, right? Trying to influence me in some way, shape, or form. And then the next night, I had another spirit show up, and it ended up was a representation of a familiar spirit. And it was a bizarre one too, because it came through the windows. It was just a mist, and then it formed itself into this really weird looking creature. And I was like, what in the world? And I turned my head for a second, something distracted me, and then that familiar spirit disappeared. And then I ended up having these people around. I was like, and just subconsciously, I was like, oh crap, that familiar spirit went into somebody's body. You know, I wanted to know what that spirit was. I wanted to communicate with it and ask it what its intent was. But since it was in a body, I didn't know where it was. Um, so at the end of the day, you know, like I said, we have to test the spirits. We have to test people in our lives. We have to see if people are being influenced by negative spirits or not. Um, that's what we just have to be mindful in those manners, and just send healing frequencies as well. Um, and the power of prayer too. You know, I always send silent prayers to everybody, especially if I'm feeling like somebody has anxiety or depression, things like that. I send it back. I'm like, nope, I do not accept that energy that is being, that frequency that's being sent to me. So I'm going to send it back, and I'm going to send that healing and praying back to that person too. So then they feel that emotion, right? They feel that spirit being moved into them, and it gives them that choice. Um, and it feels that sense of accomplishment. You know, that's what I always wanted in my life was people praying for me and sending positive healing waves and things of that nature. And and that's the power of the internet now, is that we do get to communicate with people now, and that we can express ourselves now more and be more open. And that's what my spiritual journey's been, is learning how to be more open and honest in videos and present things in a whole different way. And at the end of the day, it's all about making the best version of you and learning the power of healing, forgiveness, and surrender. So yeah, so anyways, I'm just starting to ramble on here now. So at the end of the day, yeah, it's all about making your life better and discerning and learning and growing and maturing in all walks of life is key. Maturity is key. We have to eventually grow up. Don't lose the child within you. That's the key. You want to still have that child essence, but you really still have to have that sense of maturity in your life as well. So you can help people, you can help the youth and everything, because if you can't help yourself, you're never going to be able to help others as well. So you got to create that balance in your life too. So anyways, I got to end this. So love yourself, keep shining bright. If you got any questions, concerns, let me know. Leave comments below or whatever it may be. Visit my pages. And let's learn from amongst each other. Let's learn why there's so much dividing in life. And let's just start combining all of these elements together and research and all of this stuff. And let's make life, let's make sense of life, and that's the key thing, is making sense in life, making sense of what spirits are, things like that, and that's the whole thing, that's what we're learning, right? Is that we want this stuff to make sense. We want it to be real. We don't want it to be questionable or making people more confused on things. We want to have some kind of answers. And those answers start with me. It starts with you. And as we bring all this research together, we really begin to learn on what life is all about. So yeah, so I get in this. So love yourself. Keep shining bright. I'll talk to y'all later.